Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome to Information Professionals 2050. I'm Gary Marcinini, the Dean of the School of Information and Library Science, and we're pleased to welcome you to this conference and event. This is the culmination of the 80th anniversary of our school. We've had a number of events throughout the year and are just so pleased that we could wrap it up with a symposium that took place yesterday and today's conference. I certainly want to thank a number of people, the organizing committee for the entire year's events. Was done by a committee co-chaired by Sarah Snow, and Fred Roper, who unfortunately isn't able to be here today, Dean Edmonds III, the grandson of our founder, Lewis Round Wilson, Duncan Smith, who is here. There's Duncan. Back there. And also presenting today, Amanda Foster, a recent graduate of our master's program, Joanne Marshall, who you also hear from today, a member of our faculty, and Rebecca Varga, SILS librarian. There's Rebecca. And David Woodbury, and I saw Dad, there's David, good, Learning Commons librarian at NC State and past president of the SILS Alumni Association. So thank you all. The other people I really have to thank are the SILS staff. I mean, you cannot believe how hard these folks work and the amount of time and effort that they put into organizing these events, and I'm deeply appreciative of everything they do, including being here at about 7:30 this morning to get set up, which was actually the easy part. So these things take a lot of time and effort, and unfortunately, I get to get a lot of the credit standing up here, but it's only because there's so many really excellent people who make it possible. And then thanks to all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to be here, and especially thanks to the 16 thought leaders from around the country who joined us for 2 days, giving us their best ideas, conversation, and debate. And we're so privileged to have such talent here, and I think you're going to enjoy what they have to say today. Everyone wrote a paper. There will be a publication out of these papers. It will be available Creative Commons with attribution on the web and in other venues. Hopefully that will all be available to folks before classes start this fall. So we're on a pretty tight schedule, but people have been fantastic in writing, editing, and revising. Today we'll have four panels. We've sort of organized the 16 presenters into 4 panels. Actually, there will be 15. One person had to leave last night. Kathy Marshall is unable to be here today. But the 4 panels kind of help us organize. They're related to themes of higher education, libraries and archives, the information industry, and information trends, although you'll see a good amount of overlap. So as we were thinking about how we could pull together such an event, we started with a sort of semi-audacious notion that, well, what would it be like in 2050? Why 2050? Well, it's nice, middle of the century kind of thing. But it turns out that if you just sort of do a little bit of simple arithmetic, folks who are 21 and graduating from our universities today will only be, I can say this, 59 in 2050, and they'll most likely still be working and actually reaching kind of the peaks of their careers, given the way that our lives, the lives of information professionals work in today's world. So it's not quite that far away, and we're responsible for kind of thinking about that future. Kind of only fools and charlatans maybe really believe they can predict the future, but we certainly would be foolish not to at least think about what kind of future we would like to see, because it's certainly the case that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And we'd like to know where we're going. or at least have some directions and begin to lay out some possible roads that students today can take so that they are the leaders of the future. So we spent all day yesterday discussing the papers. I was a little bit cruel in that I said people could only talk about their papers for 5 minutes, and I kept them to that. And then we had discussion around the ideas because everyone had a chance to read those papers in advance. And I think that worked fairly well. As I was trying to think about some of the high points, it occurred to me that a lot of what we talk about deals with sort of tensions on a variety of dimensions. And where you come down on each of those dimensions is sort of what you believe about the future, what probably your optimism and opinion about the present is as well. And so thinking about those dimensions is a strategy that I use a lot in my work. And I kind of also believe in Gardner's multiple intelligences sort of perspective of life. And so here are some of the dimensions that seem to me we hit on over and over again. The dimension of scale to craft, the notion of are we really trying to do things at scale to reach very, very large kinds of populations? This gets us into sort of crowdsourcing and the economics of scale. The other side of it is sort of craft, that we really are very much interested with a very specific kind of person or problem, and we deal with it at kind of a local level. And of course, we're always somewhere in between on that dimension. So there are a lot of points made throughout the day that related to scale or individual attention. Physical, virtual, another kind of dimension. Are we dealing with atoms or are we dealing with bits? Are we dealing with sort of residency in terms of an educational program or online programs? Are we looking at the library as a place and a physical collection or as digital libraries? And these are sort of another kind of dimension that recurred throughout our discussion. A third dimension is the notion of, I guess, what I'll call the ideal versus the utility side of things, or the practical. The theory versus practice that everybody in especially graduate school always has to argue about. The faculty want theory and the students want practice and so on. The notion of the possibilities that exists and what we might be able to do in the future. And if we're creative and imaginative, and then the constraints we live under in terms of the world of today, the limits of resources, and also the negativity of the emotional thought that carries around the world in many places. Another dimension that recurred, I guess I'll label one side agility and the other side strength. Are we cheetahs, in which we're very agile and quick and we can adapt very quickly to move to another feast? Or are we strong oak trees, solidly grounded and there for the duration and sort of well understood and well placed. The notion of content versus services is another kind of dimension. Do we really focus on the information resources and content? Is content king? Or are we talking about the services, the connections we're able to make with people and with organizations? Expertise versus learners. Are we experts and we actually have something to offer, or are we co-learners with the rest of the world? And we're all evolving together, and what our expertise is in trying to cope with these learning challenges. Private versus public was another strong theme. The notion of sort of property or proprietary-based information resources versus open access was strongly